Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, August 15th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Akron game in 16 days, the game against Michigan in 107 days. A little later on Thursday, let's say late morning, 11:30-ish, we're going to be talking to Brian Day and both coordinators, offensive coordinator Chip Kelly and defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, to kind of take the temperature of where things stand as the Buckeyes sort of near the midway point of the month and of fall camp, heading into the countdown to the 2024 Ohio State football season. Is it possible we will get an official announcement on the starting quarterback on Thursday? Yes, it is possible. May have a final verdict there. We will see. Best way to make sure you are there and finding out along with us is to be subscribed to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button. Make sure you get notified when we go live, because we will have you live streaming those press conferences for you and then have some immediate reaction for you afterwards as well. So plenty of stuff coming up on Thursday at BuckeyeHuddle.com and YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Okay, on with the show. Going to be hearing from guys we talked to a couple days ago. This is actually from last Friday, but not a lot of news coming out since then, so this should all be pretty much relevant now still. So I'm going to let you hear from Brian Hartline, going to let you hear from Carnell Tate, from Jordan Hancock, and Jermaine Mathews on today's show. So a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense, and especially some guys, younger guys who expected to take a bigger role this year, and guys you haven't necessarily heard a ton from. So hopefully that'll be interesting for you. I know people generally like to see and hear these guys out of uniform before the season starts, so you sort of get to know the guys a little better. So here we go. Let's start with someone you do know pretty well at this point. That is wide receivers coach Brian Hartline. What is he like about going up against this caliber of a defensive back every day in practice? The Ohio State defense expected to be one of the best, if not the best in the nation this year. Defensive backs, quite possibly the best in Ohio State history. So what is it like for the wide receivers to go up against these defensive backs every single day in practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of coming to Ohio State is the iron on iron, iron sharpens iron. That's a cliche statement, but it's really true. I mean, it's twofold, right? It's the DBs you go against every day, and then it's the guys in your room. You can't have a bad day. So the combination of both of those is critical. You can't have one without the other. I think that, again, I can sing their praises. This is the best DB core, I want to say, depth-wise and top-of-the-line-wise, that I think probably I've seen since I've been here. We've had great players, over the last 6-7 years, 8 years. So, but as a core, as a group, the quality of, the coaching that's happening day in and day out, how early these guys are meeting to get job descriptions and execute at a high level, it's been different. So can't say enough about the competition we have day in, day out against BIA.
All right, that was one question. We've made you wait long enough for what you're all here for. Jeremiah Smith. Let's talk Jeremiah Smith. Brian Hartline, have you ever seen a freshman wide receiver like Jeremiah Smith before?
Yeah, I would say every guy that comes in, they're all different and they're all in their own path. I would say some got to grow here where others got to grow there, and the end goal isn't to start at Ohio State. That's just one of the goals along the journey. So, once you start, then you got to be productive, and then once you're productive and you have a name, you got to justify that name, and then then you become a first-round pick, and you got to show your worth to being a first-round pick. So, the main goal is where we're at. He has a lot of tools. He works extremely hard, and I will say this: I would say that we've never had an iron Buckeye from Coach Mick as a freshman. I don't know about ever, or I know definitely since I've been here. So a lot of credit to him where, as far as Jeremiah goes, he, embodied everything that is a part of that conversation, right? It's not just lifting numbers, speed numbers. It is the way you carry yourself, the way you train, the way you, the edge to you. It's all of that. And so he's the first one that's ever earned that, and, we'll kind of leave it at that.
Jeremiah Smith, not the only talented freshman wide receiver on this year's Ohio State team. We're going to be talking about two other ones now. First, how about Mylan Graham? Mylan Graham, also a 5-star wide receiver, but he was not in for the spring. He just showed up in June. So a little behind schedule maybe, because he arrived on time and not early like everyone else seems to these days. So with the idea that he only arrived in June, What has Brian Hartline seen so far from Mylan Graham this year?
Yeah. Mylan came in in the June, but man, he's really done a good job of learning the offense, learning what I want, what we want. I would say that he takes a lot of pride in his work. He does not like having MAs, almost to the point where he tries to justify himself on why he did things. Like, Mylan, come, take a deep breath. But I appreciate that edge. I really do. He's jumping in and trying to take reps. He's really doing a good job, and I think right now he's just chasing building a body of work to justify where he's at, right? That's the hardest part about coming in June. I mean, what body of work did you really, developed or proven to your peers or your coaches to really justify what you want to accomplish, right? You guys know that. So that's what he's chasing right now. He's trying to stack days and just show and develop his identity as a football player here at Ohio State.
And I know some of you were probably thinking, wait a minute, they only signed 2 wide receivers in the 2024 class. What is he talking about? Well, how about Damarion Witten? He technically was listed. He was listed as a tight end on all the recruiting sites. He was listed as a tight end, I think, when Ohio State released the roster. But he's been working in the wide receiver room this year, so we're going to count him with the wide receivers, at least for the moment. So what has Brian Hartline seen from Damarion Witten so far in his Ohio State career?
It doesn't matter if it's him or anybody. I mean, we're all trying to learn football at a high level. You're competing with your peers to stand out, that I learn things quicker, or I make more plays. Whatever those are, you're always competing with your peers initially, and then obviously the whole room, and then it's nationally. You get the idea, right? So, Witt's competing with all the other guys, Dorian and Mylan, and so. JJ, even though he's got a head start, I think that he's got strong hands. He's a bigger bodied guy. He's got to make sure he's not, getting, a tight end body, right? He's a skilled athlete. He's definitely, got some skills. He's working on his footwork, again, his mechanics. There's a lot of boxes he's working to check. And again, I think he's been doing that and attacking that with purpose each day, So, but you see a flash here and there. We're just looking for consistency, right? And that's with all these guys. And he kind of fits that mold.
Another guy who did not get to show a whole heck of a lot this spring was Brandon Inniss. He was, of course, on campus for his second year with the Buckeyes, but he missed most of the spring with a foot injury. So, what did Brandon Inniss do to show you that he still belongs in the picture for a lot of playing time this fall with Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, we made the decision to get him healthy with his foot this past spring, so he missed a lot of spring. But I would say the way he carried himself and the way he was a leader, and then I would say once he was back, Coach Mick does a lot of things to grade guys and give feedback and hold guys accountable. So he was a guy that impressed his teammates through the summer. He was a guy that was all gold. He was a guy that the leaders wanted to vote him on the leadership council. So he earned all that without even playing football. So how did he stand out? It was everything of the non-talent issues, everything off the field he stood out in. And, he's got to continue bringing that day in and day out. But that was probably what he did through the summer to, get back on track and stay on track.
With all the hype around Jeremiah Smith and all the excitement around Emeka Egbuka coming back for one more season, it feels like Carnell Tate is kind of getting overlooked in a way. He is someone who is set to enter his second season now, and that's a year when we've seen guys really take a big step. Jackson Smith-Njigba going from his first year to his second year, it looked like a completely different wide receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr., very much the same. So this is a position where you often will see guys take a big leap from year 1 to year 2. So, all right, let's hear from Carnell Tate. We've seen guys kind of explode in year 2 of their careers. Where do you think you are entering year 2? And then you're going to hear a couple of follow-ups from our buddy Tony Gerdeman and Patrick Murphy of BuckNuts.com.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on that trajectory. I feel like it's my time now. If not now, then when. I feel like I'm ready to embrace that bigger role as we go on.
What does that look like?
Making plays, go out there, hopefully have 1,000 yards, make plays for the team when needed, and be that go-to guy.
Is that a target then, 1,000 yards?
Oh yeah, definitely.
How many guys could have 1,000 yards?
All 3 of us or 4 of us can have 1,000 yards. Right? Cause we got 2 great running backs; they can have 1,000 yards. So we got to come together as an offense and execute.
Carnell Tate has been singled out as having the softest hands on the team, the best hands on the team, however you want to categorize that. His hands, Very good catcher of the football, Carnell Tate. So how do you develop that skill?
Just concentration. You can't get in your hand. You can't get in your head about it. Catching comes from it's a mindset game. When you start dropping the ball, you can get in your head and stuff like that. So you got to build confidence by keep catching the ball.
And of course, whenever we're talking to players on the offense, we got to hear about the quarterback, Will Howard. He came in the spring, seemed like he was okay, but not necessarily there. And it feels like he's taken a big step between the spring and fall camp now. So how different is Will Howard now compared to how he looked in the spring?
He's way more relaxed this time around. He go out there, make his mistakes, then he learned from it next play, and then bounce back. He's talking to us about what he saw out there, how we can be better, and this and that.
Now let's flip over onto the defensive side of the ball and cornerback Jordan Hancock. He's been playing nickel last year, going to be playing nickel this year. The defense had a lot to feel good about last year, but never created quite as many turnovers as I think they probably would have liked. So is that sort of a point of emphasis this year, not just getting stops, but getting turnovers as well?
Yeah, we want to make some big-time plays this year. We didn't really have too many last year. We need some more turnovers, so that's really the point of emphasis, whether that's getting punch-outs on the ball or making interceptions.
The Ohio State cornerback room has branded themselves BIA, or Best in America. That's been true for a number of years that they've branded themselves that way, but it hasn't necessarily always been true on the field. You probably remember the 2020 and 2021 Ohio State defenses. So now with Jim Knowles in town, the defense has gotten steadily better over the last couple of years, and it feels like BIA really does live up to the moniker now. So what does it mean to Jordan Hancock to hold that room to that standard?
It means everything that is back to us. It means everything to the school, the people that came before us, Coach Walt. I mean, we literally had talks, like, I remember in 2022 season, like, we're going to bring this thing back. Like, we talked about it so many times, like, the revival of BIA, like, we really talked about this before it happened last year. So, I mean, we just seeing it happen in fruition is crazy, but we kind of knew it was going to come back to the standard and what those guys left behind us.
And finally, Jermaine Mathews. He's someone who, if a couple of those guys who could have gone pro did go pro, you probably would be hearing a lot about Jermaine Mathews being a potential breakout player as a starter, as a sophomore. Instead, he is probably going to be maybe the fourth corner, something like that, behind Davison Igbinosun and Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock. No great shame in being behind those guys as a second-year player, but we have seen him working both at the nickel and outside this fall at various times during practices. So where has Jermaine Mathews been playing more this fall?
I think the first couple of days I was more of at nickel. I think I've been moved more outside. A couple players came back, and so we got more depth now. So I can just go back and forth. And I think it's been a good mix of 50-50 right now.
Mathews had a very impressive freshman season, getting on the field early, looking impressive while he was out there, not looking at all like a true freshman when he was out there last fall. So what has he been working on since last season to prepare himself for an even bigger role this year?
Just being more valuable to the team, just like the nickel thing. I didn't play nickel last year, and I started just learning it in the spring and just growing more with it now. So I think just getting more value for the team and just finding my way, just buying into my role.
And finally, Jermaine Mathews was asked about a guy who was in the same position that Mathews was this time last year. So this time it's Aaron Scott, who's the true freshman, hoping to earn some snaps, earn a little bit of a role on the defense this year as a true freshman. Obviously, probably not going to be a day one starter or anything like that, but has a chance to be a meaningful contributor to this team. So what has Jermaine Mathews seen out of Aaron Scott so far?
Aaron has a big frame, and he has just a knack for just the position. And he's been growing since he's got here. He's been growing a lot. He's been showing improvement, so that's always a great sign.
And again, we will be back at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center a little later on Thursday, sort of late morning, early afternoon. Should have those live interviews for you at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Planning to probably do a little bit of a live episode after that, if time and space permits, and we have the ability to do that. We will try and do that as well. So make sure you are subscribed to us at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Make sure you have hit that bell so you get notified when we do live shows. And make sure you're subscribed at BuckeyeHuddle.com as well. That's where we have 24/7 coverage of the Ohio State Buckeyes, not just on live here and there. We are there all the time. Tony, Kevin, and I covering the team. Mark covering recruiting. Our whole team of X's and O's gurus there to make you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.